I think the two questions are very closely related. The answer is you need both, because both the rooftop and the centralized have a part to play. What I would say, and I think we've heard the answer from the experience of Solar Impulse, start with the distributed stuff, because then you work back to how much centralized demand you need. I think if you look at historically how grids were designed, there were big chunks of capacity added and big wires, and if there wasn't enough demand, then you stimulated demand. So it was center out. And I do think that particularly China, okay, you have largely completed big chunks of your build out, but to the extent that you have flexibility, start from the edges, make everything as energy efficient as possible, and then capture as much local power as possible, local resource, and store it as close as you can to users, and then that will define the demand that you have to fit to meet elsewhere. Then you want a market that promotes that, and it's a really, really difficult question, and my answer to it, I'm afraid, is probably deregulation. It's a really dirty word, but the problem you've got is that trying to design the market, to design rules that allocate capital from the state, that set prices by the state, that forecast energy mixes by the state, and that keep up with technologies that are coming out of brilliant entrepreneurs, and that keep up with economic changes that might come out of Chinese innovation or scale up. They might come out of the Swiss exchange rate fluctuations. There is no pen push, there's no bureaucrat, there's no price setter in the world that will get that right. So I don't know the detail of what that means, but I do know that every single policy in this area should be weighed up against whether it brings in new players and new technologies and new business models, or whether it shuts them out. It's a very simple test. And if you're bringing in new brilliant players, then technologies, business models and players, but particularly players, if you're bringing in the Elon Musks of the world and the Bertrand Picards of the world and Andre and so on, then you will be moving at the right speed. And if you simply expect, if your regulatory environment only enables existing players to carve things up between them, you will underperform.